Alright, guys, I think that's key. Good try. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's Razzun. I don't really care.
It's okay. We'll get him next time.
Isn't there someone you forgot to ask? I actually need the crest, so can we just finish this one up real quick?
What up, gamers? I'm Aaron, and yesterday we got the news for the long-awaited 11.2 patch. And if you're anything like me, you've been anxiously scanning the changes, hoping for nothing that's gonna fuck up this beautiful M+ season we've got going on. So, what's changing the game? Is the Shadowmeld Potion going to ruin low keys? Will the Keystone Lever Protection System save your weeklies? Let's talk about it. Alright, so the first and probably biggest announced change is the introduction of this Mythic Plus Lever Protection System, in which you can go full democracy and vote on whether or not a keystone is GG before people are free to start leaving. And my main concern with this system is that I'm not sure that every player deserves an equal say in what happens with the key. And I'm not just talking about your 2 million DPS overall Warlock with 8 deaths at 5 minutes. So the crux of the issue to me is that not every player has the exact same reason to be invested in a Mythic Plus dungeon. You know, the group leader is not only the one who has to put their key up for depletion, but they're also the one who's going to 90% of the time sit there building the group. So I do think it's important that the group leader has a lot bigger say in what happens to their key than the rest of the people in the group. Now here's an example of what I'm talking about. Let's say you've got this beautiful Dark Flame Cleft keystone, and you love to see this, because on most key levels Dark Flame Cleft is so free that you could probably make your little brother run the key for you and just come back and do whatever it turns into. But let's say you're 10 minutes into the run, and it seems like your team is starting to struggle. The play for you might be to actually call the keystone entirely and just run Dark Flame Cleft a little lower, rather than risking it turning into something that pugs have no chance of handling well, like a Priory or a Floodgate. But in that scenario, it's going to be real uncomfortable when the 4 other players vote that they want to finish your key and completely sabotage the next 2 hours of your schedule. So to some extent, I think that the party leader should kind of have the ability to unilaterally make the decision that, you know, their key is over. I think that seems reasonable enough, but I can also see how it might suck on the other side in which you join a group. You know, your group leader thinks that his friend's rat alt can heal the dungeon, but now you're 2 wipes into Candle King, and it's very obvious that this guy is no Ellesmere. The 4 other guys are obviously going to vote no to a surrender because they're trying to fill their dumbass friend's vault. So now you're stuck here until the timer runs out, wiping to this boss as the repair bills mount up. Now, I'm not gonna lie, people who leave for no reason fucking suck. I can empathize with that 100%. You know, especially if you're a more casual player who doesn't have time for 2, 4, 20 runs a day or a week. You know, you might spend all of your play session getting into this key just for some guy to randomly drop out 10 minutes in. I completely understand how frustrating that is. But part of me also wonders if maybe the ability to leave your dungeon is helping keep WoW's toxicity lower than other games. Let's look at League of Legends. When you queue up for a League game, you are imprisoned for 30 plus minutes. I mean, when you try to leave a game, it might as well give you a warning that Mark Merrill is going to personally come to your house and shoot you if you alt F4 out of the game. Leaving players in the position of this cornered animal kind of increases a lot of toxicity, I think. You know, they're not just stuck in the keystone, they're stuck in the keystone because you won't surrender. And would you rather your Warlock just leave? Or would you rather him pull a League of Legends style soft imp situation, where the guy just intentionally overpulls and wipes your group until the timer depletes? I think for everybody in that case, it's a lot better to just let him leave. I'm not saying everybody in LFG is a friendly guy. There's definitely a ton of assholes out there, but I do think you're a lot less likely in World of Warcraft to run into somebody who's just machine gunning racial slurs. When they get that angry, they're just gonna leave. So I'm not inherently against the idea of a lever protection system, but I really think it's important to kind of consider all this when we're building it. Because if we do it wrong, I think it might just be more frustration than it's worth. And after that, I'd like to mention a quick change to consumables for Season 3 with the Shadowmeld Potion controversy. But before that, I have to bring up a very important Mythic Plus issue. And this isn't something waiting for Season 3. This is something going on right now, and it needs your attention. The day was June 6th, 2025, and it was raining in Elwyn Forest. To stay out of the storm, Keystone pushers like myself and my team found ourselves hiding away in Priory of the Sacred Flame. It was a Priory run unlike any other, completely deathless, with not one person lost to Sacred Toll or a first pull overlap. But all of that would change as the final boss fell, and just moments before the timer would freeze, a death. My beautiful healer was dead on the ground. But whose fault was it? Well, according to him, he could have defended himself if it weren't for us bantering over a certain marking that was drawn on the ground in Priory of the Sacred Flame. But quite frankly, it was a very important issue, and I'm going to raise that issue to you. Does this look like someone drew a penis on the ground? I'm not going to influence you by saying whether or not I think it does. All I'll say is that a true artist sees art everywhere he looks. So if you wouldn't mind, please take to the comments and settle this debate on whether or not this is a penis on the ground. I appreciate your concern. Okay, so now that we have the important business out of the way, I'd like to talk about the news of this potion that allows you to mimic the Shadowmeld effect. This is sincerely a fucking awesome change, but if you've looked at the WoW forums or the WoW subreddit, you've probably seen a dumbass comment saying that this isn't worth it, because it shares your potion cooldown, or because it will encourage Shadowmeld skips in +6 keys. To be clear, it does share your potion cooldown, but does that really matter? The answer is no, because 95% of the time, a good use of Shadowmeld is worth considerably more than your DPS potion cooldown. 90% of the time with meld tech, the only guy who actually has to have it is your tank. So I will present to you a pop quiz. What is more valuable to you? Your tank gets to use one extra rank 2 tempered potion, or you get to skip bubbles. I really hope you said skip bubbles. Anyways, look, who cares if it shares a potion cooldown? I mean, if you look through Mythic dungeon logs below like 15, I guarantee you will struggle to find one log where someone gets more than 3 good uses of a combat potion, let alone the 6 that you can get in a full key. And you know what? Fuck it. I'm ranting now. When you see someone on a place like Reddit say that Shadowmeld skips are going to be expected in +6 keys, you can just immediately disregard anything that they're saying. Have you ever done a weekly key? Tanks don't know what the hell is going on. They're just pulling whatever you put in front of them. A pug tank looks at a motherlode peacekeeper, the goddamn Adolf Hitler of WoW mobs, the way that babies look at car keys. There is no way they are going to rage if you don't have and perfectly execute a Shadowmeld skip. I'm sorry, I got a little heated. The WoW subreddit, man, it gets me going. So is this potion a good thing? Hell yes. It's not necessarily a problem when racials get to be cool. It's not that Night Elf is too strong or that Dwarf is too strong. The problem is that the others don't often get a chance to shine. When everybody was playing Void Elf for Muggsy, we started seeing tons of cool Void Elf tech appearing in Mythic Plus, especially in places like Mechagon. So, when one of the racials becomes so powerful that it's starting to feel necessary for a lot of these routes, and to be clear, Shadowmeld definitely did, then it's really cool to give an option like this potion to open that up. Now Night Elves aren't necessarily the only people who can do these routes, they just maybe get an extra combat potion while doing them. And I promise you, that's not nearly as crazy as it sounds. It's also just a nice thing to see because quite frankly the consumables in this expansion are just dog shit. I don't know if your guild ever drops potion cauldrons, but if you've ever opened one, you might have seen all of the options you have for potions, and quite frankly some of them just sound awful. I mean, I feel bad for the Blizzard employee that clocked in for his shift and programmed these just to have them be tuned this poorly. I mean, something like the Potion of the Reborn Cheetah sounds like a troll item.
Not sure how I feel about this whole cauldron system.
So I applaud Blizzard for making a more useful consumable, and I hope that going forward in Midnight especially, we take the more Dragonflight approach of making potions that might be niche, but are very useful when they get a chance to shine. You know, something like the Gust of Wind potion in Dragonflight was really, really strong in something like Halls of Valor, and even gets used today on Gallywix. So I really would like to see potions that, you know, they aren't afraid to make be usable going forward. Anyways, that's all from me today, gamers. If you've never seen me around and you enjoyed the content, I would really appreciate it if you would check out the other stuff that I've made, or even consider joining me as a subscriber. My name's Aaron, and I really appreciate your time. Peace. Someone drew a penis on the ground.